Welcome to the CTO Studio. This week we are talking to Kimberly Owen, who is my favoritist person / recruiter. I ask her all the questions that I want to ask about recruiting process. So stay tuned.
The hard question.
The hard questions.
I have a wonderful electronic invention I want you to see. It looks something like this.
Welcome to the CTO Studio. I'm your host, Etienne de Bruin. The CTO Studio is where we chat with CTOs building amazing products with incredible teams. Have you chatted with a CTO lately? Welcome to the CTO Studio. Today, a great friend of mine, but also a huge asset to the CTO community. Kimberly Owen.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm pretty good. It's Friday.
It's Tuesday.
In the virtual world?
It's Tuesday when this gets released.
Oh, hi everyone. It's Tuesday. We can edit that.
No, there's no editing.
What?
This
no
show
editing.
is 100%
Oh, is it
real.
Is it like Graham Norton? Do you ever watch the Graham
I
Norton
love Graham
show?
Norton.
So if it were like Graham Norton, you'd have a selection of beverages. Oh, I see. Yes, but you didn't offer champagne.
But you know, the problem is by the time I do all of these in one day, so I'd be completely hammered.
Right. But they're for your guests, Etienne.
Does Graham also drink?
Yes, he does, but he's a lush.
That
but
is
sort
such
of
a great
it
show.
loosens their tongue.
I love that show so much.
Me too. Yeah.
So are you from the
Ireland? No. I'm from England. Yes.
How do you feel about Brexit?
Oh, goodness. I think they should have another referendum because everyone made a very poor decision. They just need to have a do-over.
Did you see that right the day after the vote, the highest search term in Google in the UK was "What is the European Union?"
No, I didn't. No, that's very disturbing.
And what seemingly no one knew what.
Well, no, they need to have a recount, but they need to say that your IQ has to be over a certain level, otherwise you're not allowed to vote.
It's such an absolute.
It's a mess. It's a big mess.
Now, and Theresa May, I kind of felt, for the first time.
She's hanging in there, isn't she?
Ah.
By the skin of her teeth.
I'm amazed she survived. Well, who knows? By the time this is, Britain may be gone.
Yeah, you might not even be able to fly there because it'll be such a mess. Go by boat.
I think
maybe.
I heard today or yesterday that there's a hole in a hole that they're trying to cover between Northern Ireland and.
Oh, that's right. They want a soft border. Yes, not a hard border.
Yes.
Yeah, it's tricky. At least they're not building a wall.
Yes.
We're not supposed to get political on this show, are we? That's what happens when you get someone from South Africa and someone from the UK. They're like,
This show is whatever we want it to be.
Okay.
I just want you here. That's all I want.
oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So what do you think the wall's going to be built?
I think it is, yeah.
There was just a horrible story in the news today about a young 7-year-old who died of dehydration.
Oh, I didn't hear about that. That's depressing. Yeah, they're actually all the people who the asylum seekers who have been detained south of the border seem to be in pretty appalling conditions. I've been following some news feeds on Instagram of a reporter who's been with them, sort of with the caravan, and she posts stories of individuals, and it's pretty heart-wrenching what they're going through.
So you are a CTO. I told you for this show you have to pretend to be a CTO.
Oh, okay. Sure.
How's your team doing?
Fantastic. They're amazing. I love them.
Very good.
Yeah, our one-on-ones, they're marvelous.
Oh, good. You probably have the lingo down because of what you do, right?
A little bit. I don't know if I could really fake it.
So you are in the recruitment space.
Yes.
And
correct.
Have you guys...
I've been recruiting for 23 years.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That was like
started
before I was
when I was a
born.
baby. Straight out of the womb, recruiting.
Recruiting. I can see that.
Recruiting in kindergarten.
I can see that.
Yeah.
And where? Where have you been recruiting?
I recruited in London, first of all. I used to recruit for a company called Harvey Nash, who basically they place most of the CEOs and CTOs in London. So it's search and selection. And then I moved to San Francisco and worked in Silicon Valley in the dotcom boom, the first one,
Okay.
1998.
Wow, that's 98 was when I was
That
in
was
Germany.
really fun. And yeah, it was a crazy time.
Did you come across did you get a green card or what's the
I
visa
actually have an
arrangement?
American passport.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a well-kept secret. So they let me in.
Were you born in the States?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. Whereabouts?
Born here and then
South Dakota.
in LA, and then shipped off to the UK when I was a few months old because they wanted
Like
me to have
puppies.
a better accent.
Yes, yes.
Oh. So now I'm back home, and yeah, so that was the first time I'd actually lived in the US was when I moved to San Francisco. It was amazing. It was such a great time to be there, obviously to be in technology recruiting. Everybody was hiring. Everyone was very excited. There was a lot of VC money floating around. We used to go to...
Was there reckless hiring?
Yes.
And
absolutely. It was literally a case of, someone would phone up and say, we need 20 Java developers and we need them next week.
And you'd be like...
I would say, well, I've got this one guy who kind of knows Windows. Like, is that okay? And they're like, yes, that's fine. Like, yeah, it was insane. It was like the Wild West. So anyone who knew anything about tech just got hired. But that was a very brief bubble.
The crash was 2000, right?
Around 2000, 2001, the cracks started appearing. And yes, we used to log on to a website when we came into work every morning. In the early days, it was called SF Girl, and it would list all of the launch parties where people were spending VC money recklessly on a bowling alley in the basement or something. And we'd eat for free, and that went on for 2 years. And then the last 2 years I was there, we'd log on to a company website called dotcom, the politically correct way, and we'd check to see if any of our clients had gone through Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
So it was like EFFD.company.com.
Yes.
Wow, that's complicated.
EFFDcompany.com was a list of all the Chapter 11 filings from the day before as the bubble burst.
And what did you do with that list?
Well, we just prayed that none of our clients were on there.
Oh, because then the way it would work is you would then lose the contingency.
We put people into jobs in good faith, hoping that they would continue working there. And so you obviously don't want your people to get laid off. And also a lot of people are on contract. So, yeah.
But why do you want people to not be laid off? Because
these are life-changing decisions. When you're working with a candidate, they're trusting you to help give them advice and guidance on their next career move. And if you put them into a company that then goes bust, you just feel responsible. And, they've taken that job over and above maybe another position that they could have taken.
Is that what separates you from other recruiters, that you care about?
A conscience. Maybe. I don't know. Recruiters get a bad rap. A lot of the business that people do is very transactional. And I do get a lot of referrals from candidates saying, hey, I've really enjoyed working with you. I want to refer you to this person. I told them you were great. You made me feel like I was the only candidate in the job market, and I really appreciate all the sort of personal touches. But I do think that's really important because these are massive life-changing decisions. Your career is such a big part of who you are. It kind of defines you in a lot of ways. And I think some recruiters lose sight of that, and they're just all about, chasing the numbers or the deal. And often I will give, maybe unsolicited advice to candidates, but I'll say, let's try and look at this objectively. Here are all the reasons why I would take the job. Here are the reasons I wouldn't take the job. I never pigeonhole or force someone into a decision, because ultimately that never works out. They end up leaving within a few months or, being unhappy. So yeah, I think it's important.
Having the wherewithal to say, if I follow my personal values as a recruiter, that good karma will come from that.
Exactly.
Even if I don't cash a check.
Exactly. So the other day, a couple of weeks ago, you referred me to someone, Benji from Galley Solutions. Do
So
you remember?
many referrals.
And I went and had coffee with him in South Park. He just moved there, him and his wife. And he was telling me, basically he has a bootstrapped startup and he needs to hire people. And he asked for my advice. And I told him, look, your best, action right now is to go to your network. If you work with me, I can find you people, but you're going to pay a fee. And from what you've just told me about the growth of the company, you're not in a position to pay a recruiting fee. So let's stay in touch. Let's link on LinkedIn. In the future, when you get further funding, I can definitely help you. In the meantime, everything you told me about this search that you have, I know the perfect candidate. They're just in the top of my head because I just spoke with them and I've placed this guy before and he's amazing. And actually, he would love what you're doing. He's really passionate about pair programming. He's really into, the tech stack you're using, Node.js and React. And I know you guys are going to hit it off. And he's not your typical startup guy. Like if you saw him on paper, you'd probably be like, no, I'm not going to talk to that guy because, he's, he's maybe in his 50s and he's kind of been around the block. And you probably think, oh, maybe that's not what I'm looking for in terms of a profile. But I just know you guys will get on. So I'm going to introduce you because I think it will be a good match and we'll just, pay it forward. And he made him an offer today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So obviously I'm not earning a commission from that, but it was kind of cool because I know that Carl's really happy about that job and he's really excited and he called me today to say,
and Benji,
I got the offer.
I know him and he's amazing.
And Benji's going to really benefit. So that kind of makes me happy. That made me smile. That was a win today.
Yes.
It wasn't a monetary win, but it was a win all the same.
Now, if Benji paid you the contract fee, I would have been eligible for a little kickback.
Oh, maybe.
So by you offering your service for free, you kind of disappointed me as an investor.
Oh, should I have called you? Should I have run that past you?
Don't you think?
That goodwill gesture.
Don't you
From
think?
now on, if I'm ever going to do anything out of the goodness of my heart, I will check with you first, SEO.
Only if have referred them, because then I have a vested interest in the outcome.
Yeah, okay.
The other people, I don't care.
Sorry. Let's call it a lost leader.
A lost leader.
Who do you think Benji's going to call when he needs to recruit?
As usual.
You or me?
So is that what you see?
Now I'm going to get every CTO calling me and being like, hey, how about a freebie? Give me a free referral.
Yeah,
I know you've got someone in your mind, Kimberly.
That's why I'm trying to bring it back to fees and kickbacks.
Okay, sure.
You know that person that's in your mind? Can I have that person? That's what they're going to say.
Yes, they are. Yeah. That IP is very expensive.
When should CTOs quit their networks and just go with recruiting?
Well, I guess you've got to weigh up how quickly you need the product development to happen. So when you get to that point where really, it's how quickly are you bringing that product to market and what's the trade-off?
When you say, I like that. So when you say tap into your network, do you have some just low-hanging fruit advice for hiring managers / the co-founders? Because I've organized quite a few meetups in my life, and man, the people who show up at the meetups because I know that they are working on their hiring pipeline, no value add, no, just clearly not comfortable with the environment, driven by an ulterior motive.
Yeah.
So
well, they need to be active with their social media presence. They definitely need to have on their LinkedIn what they're hiring for, whatever their top priority position is, and advertise that out there. They need to, if they have an internal person who can manage the candidate flow, they need to work with that person and make them aware of their network so that they can get an outreach campaign. There's so much automated software you can use now to manage that anyway.
So social media presence.
Yeah.
What else?
I think the meetup thing for sure definitely works, but at the CTO events, are people really putting out there when they're having these conversations? Are they asking for help? I don't know if they are. They might be having a hiring conundrum, but they're not letting it be known to other people that these positions are open. So it's just kind of voicing that.
Yeah.
And getting it out there.
Like you're having that conversation in your head, but use your mouth and get it out there.
Yes.
So if it's social media, if it's meetups, is there anything else that they should be doing? So I'm asking because as part of 7 CTOs, I always want the CTOs to be working on their personal brand or their personal reputation. If you think about the comments and the interaction you get on pieces of content you're putting out there, especially if it's content that is true to who you are. It's not like, hey, we need a Node.js person. I'm going to write this article about how we built our product in 3 weeks with Node.
Right.
So
the job description's really important. I see so many awful job descriptions, and sometimes they're just a list of the tech stack, and they don't really talk about the vision of the company and where they're going and what this person will contribute towards that vision. Where does the role fit?
Is that what candidates want?
They want a story. So they want to know, why do other people love working there? Why do I want to work there? What's the vision for the company? What's the the growth trajectory? What life-changing things will I impact? Yeah, so they want the story. They don't just want a laundry list. And then you have to get away from a lot of those really tired descriptions that talk about, we're really collaborative and we're such a great team and we have a keg here. Like, everybody has a keg, and that actually, that kind of language can be quite it can be quite intimidating to certain candidates as well. If you're creating this sort of like drinking culture, it's just very focused maybe on the white male, that can maybe exclude or put off female candidates or candidates who maybe don't drink through religious reasons. It's just kind of a bit old and tired, and it's been done.
So do you help them write those?
Yeah, absolutely. I will review the job description and give feedback and advice.
So is that generally what people should be doing, is capturing the story that includes the vision, and sort of the values?
Yeah.
Is that the key? Is that a gold job description?
Yes, absolutely. And then making sure it's in the right places, and then enlisting anyone in the organization, because obviously as a CTO, you want to just go through your top tier candidates. So if you're going to post the job yourself, you need someone administrative to help you set up those filters so that, the only people that get through to you have answered a certain amount of questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
How many colors are there on a simple Simon?
I don't know about that.
4.
But...
What are they?
And then if you still can't find the person, then you just come to me.
So if I was a CTO, I wanna dip my toes into recruiting space. I have to trust you, that you don't want to just take advantage of me.
Well, yes, I guess so.
Why do recruiters have a bad rap?
Because I think, like I said, a lot of them are just transactional and they're just focused on the end result and not the story.
So what is
the company?
So if I am evaluating recruiters, what should I be looking for? How do I know that
who are their client list? Do they have longevity with clients?
So calling up the referral,
getting
a
reference from another client. Maybe asking to talk to a couple of the candidates that they've placed. Even, if you claim to have worked on a particular kind of position, can you give me an example of that?
Okay, so I like that. So calling references and previous clients.
Yeah, and then just meeting. I think you've got to meet someone in person to understand, their ethos and their culture. If you're not meeting with the people that you're going to be recruiting for, then, what chance do you have?
Yes.
You've got to make it more personal.
Yeah, and I think just like with the social media aspect, it requires a lot of your own personal investment,
For sure.
which I think when you think of social media marketing, you think, well, someone's going to do that for me. When you think of recruiting, someone's going to do that for me. But really, they're just doing the tacticals. You still have to put yourself into the messaging,
Yes.
like you said, the
yes.
story and the why, and that's hard work.
It's quite time consuming.
Because
But it's also kind of fun as well.
if you're collaborating with the right recruiter, because it can be tedious if the recruiter is like, no, well, you need to be doing this and you need to be adding that, and you guys suck.
Well, I don't know if they'd say that exactly. That's an offline conversation that we have.
So what? And then let's flip it to the candidate side. So what should I be looking for? So let's say I decide to tap into my network, and some people start sending me resumes.
Yeah.
What have you seen works? What are the good resumes? What works on the candidate side?
Well, how do I define that? Some resumes you see, they're just a mess. They're just horrible. And you talk to the candidate and you're genuinely shocked at how talented they are versus their resume, because you've literally written them off. But there's something in there that caught your eye and you thought, oh, I'll call this guy anyway. And then you talk to them and they're brilliant. And their resume is a complete disservice. So I usually tell them off. And what are you doing? You can't use the same resume format that you used in 1992. You clearly just updated each job.
Yes.
Maybe since you left school, you just keep adding to it. Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I actually don't know what does an updated format look like.
Well,
is it still like the description at the top?
Don't put your picture on it. Don't do it.
No picture.
Don't do it. Don't do the picture. You want some nice graphics. You've got to think about the UX, You've got to look at it. It's got to be in a clean format. And really, you just want to focus on what you're doing right now and maybe what you did during the last 10 years. No one cares about the stuff before that. They don't care. So it's not like you're going to lie or take things off the resume. You're just going to make, it very, very brief, so that they can see when you graduated and what you did. But actually, no one cares. No one really cares what you were doing more than 5 years ago. Let's be honest.
So if I decide to engage a recruiter, what are the steps that I can expect to go through? Like I just had my strategy meeting. We decided to release, $300,000-$400,000 into the budget. We will need to hire people ASAP.
Yeah.
What's my next step?
You want to meet with a recruiter and make sure that you feel comfortable with their background and their track record of recruiting for the specific kind of positions that you're recruiting for. And then you want to agree basically an action plan. Like, what are the timelines of, if I find you these people, who's going to interview them and when are they going to interview them? Because there's nothing more frustrating than, working with a recruiter, they find you a bunch of great candidates and then you just sit on them for 2 or 3 weeks. So that's a complete waste.
So it's an agreement from both sides. Like, I'm going to bring you candidates, but you need to jump on those. You need to
act on them quickly. And it's also about feedback and, calibrating. So if I send you a resume and it's completely off the mark, I need to know that. I need to understand so that I can, recalibrate my understanding of the position. And the next submission is obviously going to be much closer. If you're not giving feedback to your recruiter, they won't be able to do a great job for you. Because so it's a constant feedback cycle, I guess.
So I remember when I was interviewing candidates, I batched them up to interview the 3 or 4 that the recruiter sent me. And the first person walked in with a nice binder and opened the binder, and I saw it was on our company, And I thought, geez, this is really impressive.
Nice.
The next person walked in and had a binder.
Oh.
Binder.
It was the recruiter. But that's kind of cool, though.
And so these 4
Diligent.
candidates come in with these binders on our company. And I didn't hire any of them.
Oh, you didn't like the binder.
Mm-mm.
Mm.
I mean, I was impressed-ish. But then when I
It's
realized,
kind
I'm
of
like,
like being back at school, isn't it?
yeah, it's like, remember when they ask you this, you need to say that. And it's like, wow.
Or there's the whole walking the candidate into the interview thing. You
What's
know,
that?
I've heard a lot of agencies do that. They actually handhold the candidate and walk them into the interview.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like when I got my citizenship and my attorney walked me into the small office for my interview.
Oh.
She
Okay.
kicked me on the shins a couple times.
Well, maybe I'll walk my next candidate in. No, I've
No,
never
no.
done that in 23 years.
I don't think you should.
They should be able to
Do you
figure it
wanna
out themselves. I give them I
hold
call
their
them
hand?
and help them prepare for the interview.
Are you nervous when they interview?
No. Never.
Do you have a challenge more on...
If I was nervous when they interviewed, I shouldn't be sending them. Let's be honest. Oh, I wonder if this one will work out. Fingers crossed.
Have you fired Have you fired clients?
Yes.
I mean, accounts.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
How does that happen? Is it when
It
they
just-
aren't timely with the process?
Well, the active network, actually. I don't know if I should have said that. Oops, it just came out.
I love it.
They were 4 months late paying an invoice. 4
Wow.
months, which is ridiculous. And the guy was doing a great job. They loved him. And yeah, they were just so poor in terms of their accounts payable system. I had to escalate it to the CFO. And they were just very, very... there was a lot of churn there. They really got through
Yeah,
people quickly
yeah.
and burnt them out. And so I got poor feedback from some of the engineers I placed there who said, you know, it wasn't a good place to work. And you don't want to hear that from any candidate.
Yeah.
You want to work with companies that your, you know, engineers are like, I love working there. Thank you for getting me that job. Not, I hate it here. Can I get out?
In the 23 years, well, let's think about the last 5 years. How often do candidates, or when they're done with the company for whatever reason, do they call you and say, "Hey, I'm ready to move
all the
on"?
time. So that is a bit of a problem, actually, because sometimes you'll place a candidate somewhere and they love it, but, you know, for whatever reason, things change, maybe management changes or their position changes, or, you know, things are just different to how they were in the beginning. And so maybe, you know, 2, 3, 4 years will go by and they'll approach you and say, hey, you did a great job finding me this job. Can you get me another job? And I have to say no, because I can't poach from that client. If they're still a current client, I can't pull people out of there. So my contract, of course, precludes me from doing that. So I say no, I can't.
But that's not cool, hey, on the candidate side.
Well, they don't realize,
Oh.
basically. They're just reaching out for help.
Ah.
And so I usually say, hey, why don't you try talking to the company about what you're not happy about? Otherwise, I'll tell them. No, I don't say that. So yeah, I usually advise them to go and talk. So actually that happened to me recently with one of my clients, a company in La Jolla, and this product manager, business analyst gal reached out and was like, I'm not happy here and it's really stressful and I want to leave and can you find me something? And I explained why I couldn't and suggested she talk to them. And she was like, I don't think it's going to change. It's too stressful, this project. I don't like it. Everything here is great. I hate dealing with this vendor. I can't deal with them. And that's my job, is to deal with this vendor. So I'm going to leave. And so she got a job offer, not through me, through another company. And then the CTO called me and was like, oh, you're not going to believe this. So-and-so, she's leaving. She got a job offer. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Have you tried to talk her out of it? And he said, I'm sitting down with her tomorrow. And I said, well, here are the reasons that I think she might be unhappy. If I were you, I might address these things. And actually, we worked together on that and we salvaged it.
Wow.
And then I had a call with her that night and I just kind of reminded her all the good things about the company and why she'd taken the job. And she ended up staying, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then do you
for the time being.
Do you get a kickback on that?
No, I don't.
You do know that he might be watching this episode, or she.
Yes. Yes, I do. That's okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, if I weren't an ethical recruiter, I would have been happy that she'd left because then I could have replaced her and taken another fee. But no. Oh, I know. I've got a halo. Can you see that? No, I'm all about paying it forward at the moment. It's my new thing.
You know what? That's just how it works.
It's as I get older, I just I want to kind of give back more. It's less about collecting stuff and more about creating good vibes.
I also love the way it shocks people when you're just nice to them or just do something for them. Yesterday, I was brainstorming with someone on how I can help them with their business, and they just had this complete deer in the headlights look. Like,
because it was from the goodness of your heart.
Yeah, I just felt like, hey, I want to help you guys.
Well, I feel like San Diego is kind of like that, don't you think? The community here.
This wasn't in San Diego, but...
Oh, okay. Elsewhere in America. Paying it forward.
So what tips do you have? So the CTO has... So I had an interview with 4 candidates. They all brought in their company binders. I thought it sucked. I mean, they were all 50-50 candidates. I mean, there's nothing exceptional about them.
Right.
How do CTOs contribute to the problem, on the perception of recruiters? Like, it's very easy to blame a recruiter for XYZ. What can CTOs improve on themselves in the process?
It's just feedback. It's just communication. Just like I said, that feedback loop of, I liked this about candidate A and I didn't like this about candidate B. Can we strategize on, how to change things up with the next round of candidates? It's just keeping the communication open.
Whereas the opposite of that would be, man, I got some really shitty candidates from this recruiter. I'm never going to talk to them again.
Yeah, I'm on to the next one. Because you haven't addressed anything. So, it was a waste of your time and a waste of their time.
And should CTOs give candidates feedback?
100%. So I always believe in being very transparent with candidates. I'll often, CC them or BCC them on feedback from clients because I feel that, it's going to help them evolve or address whatever the issue was. And so I always give very candid feedback. If it's super candid, I don't share the email. Don't worry. But I will tell them verbally and paraphrase. Maybe sugarcoat it a bit. Bit of sugarcoating. Yeah.
So if the CTO emails you back and says, he was
rubbish,
then you're gonna
say, why was he rubbish? Is there any constructive feedback for the candidate that I can share?
Okay, so you solicit feedback for the candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And then if the CTO says that person's rubbish, that's when you sugarcoat it.
Yes, but I still ask for something constructive so that I can get back to the candidate. My job is to help the candidate and the company. So I need to evolve my understanding. Why wasn't he a fit and how can we do better? And that person needs to, evolve as well.
What are the most sought after positions right now? What
full stack developers with Node.js and React.
That's
probably. Big data scientists.
Of course, big data.
Yeah. Machine learning engineers.
Of course. Artificial intelligence.
Yes. What? No, I'm a fan. Are you not a fan? Come on.
Of what?
It's changing my work day.
What is?
AI. I love it.
AI?
I've got the bot working for me right now.
Really? What's the bot doing?
The bot is reaching out to candidates on LinkedIn, even as we speak.
Wow.
Telling them about a remote cloud engineer position I have. It's impersonating me right now. Yeah.
Wow.
I've probably got about 10 replies in the time I've been sitting here. It's amazing. I love it.
And is it just dead
It's a
silent?
Chrome add-on, actually.
So
it's developed by some sort of sketchy developers out of...
you know that this is a public forum, right?
Yeah. Deep.
I feel like you've read Radical Candor recently or something. The subtle art of not giving a fuck. I think that's what you read.
No, I haven't read that, but
okay.
Maybe I definitely should not. Yeah. No, I really enjoy all of the new software tools that I'm able to use to make my job easier now.
Oh, but So you're saying that the CTOs or hiring managers are writing that they want full stack engineers? They're still saying the words full stack?
Yes.
Wow. What does that mean?
They want them to work on the front end
I th-
and the back
Yeah,
end.
I think what they're saying is we want JavaScript engineers who can code in Node and some JavaScript front end.
Yeah, they're not saying that.
That's what they should be saying.
Should I tell them? Etienne's decided.
I think that full stack just obfuscates a whole bunch of weaknesses. Because when am I not a full stack engineer?
I mean, some of the data engineers that I play, so
Yeah, those are not full stack.
yeah, they're all back end.
So it's almost like saying you're a web developer. You're a full stack engineer. I mean, what's the difference?
And then some guys just want to work on the front end stuff, or ladies.
Huh. Okay, so you have full stack, which means front and back. Front end. Do you ever have back end engineers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So those are the three things.
Pretty much, yeah. And variations thereof.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a long pause, wasn't it? He's like, "Where's this conversation
I was trying to
going?"
decide. I was trying to decide if I should
You
get.
haven't asked me about any of my talking points.
I
that
have. I asked you about feedback.
tirelessly filled out your form.
That is
Just rip it up. Just rip it up.
No. One thing I do want to know that I read on here is you have a little story from 0809,
Oh,
which I
that's when
thought
I
was
was-
pretty funny.
yes, that's when I was recruiting for Facebook.
So tell us about that.
So that was when the crash happened. So I lost a lot of large clients. Well, they stopped hiring direct hire. They hired contractors. But Facebook was one client that continued hiring through that dark time for recruiting. And we basically worked on these SRE positions, which were, it was a fancy name for a Linux admin who could write code, basically. They kind of invented the site reliability engineer role. And DevOps, if you will, which is very big these days in terms of a term. And everyone has a different kind of, view of that and where it fits exactly in the organization and exactly what they expect of that person. But back in the day, it was pretty clear what they wanted. But they had a very, very high technical bar. And so we just got through so many candidates. They had a crazy, interview to hire ratio, not just through agencies, but from their own recruiting, because I knew the internal recruiters quite well. And we got one candidate all the way through the process, and they had a very democratic hiring process. And he basically got a check in the box from everyone for the technical. And then, there was the other sort of culture fit. And they ruled out this candidate because one of the engineers in the last interview panel didn't like the slogan on his t-shirt.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was the feedback. That was the reason
That was
they gave.
reason. And do you know what the slogan was?
I can't remember. That's a bad punchline, isn't it? I can't even remember. It was so nonsensical.
Because the punchline could have been very, very bad taste.
It could have been, but I don't recall it being particularly bad taste. I just remember they didn't like the slogan on his t-shirt, and that was the feedback that they
I
gave
think
me.
the slogan said PHP sucks.
I don't think you should say that, since some of your membership are on the PHP stack. That was a joke, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Well, I was taking a stab at why Facebook would hate why the guy,
Yeah.
because
I
it's all
hear ya.
PHP. Okay. What? So I heard a fascinating thing from
Love PHP.
You do.
You do.
I do. Actually, I built my whole company on PHP back in the day. The one we sold
Oh.
was all PHP.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And every
Monk
time,
development.
my engineers complained about PHP, I told them, "Hey, it's writing your paychecks."
Good answer.
Ooh, I'm gonna add the P's of PHP and try and incorporate paycheck into it. But before the end of this interview.
Okay. Good luck with that.
So I heard an interesting concept or analogy or description of the interview process from someone from Amazon in town recently.
Mhm.
And he talked, and I kind of want to go down the culture fit thing. He talked about an interview is really trying to accomplish two things. One, it needs to determine if you satisfy the minimum requirements for the job. So if we do want you to be able to run statistical analyses on data, you need to prove that you can do that.
Mhm.
And the second thing is to see if you're set up for success in that environment of that company. So like you said earlier, if you're a beer keg kind of gal, you might be, I'm in, I love,
Right.
And so fulfilling minimum requirements plus culture fit. In other words, and by culture fit meaning, can you, when you're faced with these things from your minimum requirements,
Mhm.
is the culture going to be a good fit for you?
Yeah.
Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I think it's a little more complicated than that. It's also about what's that candidate going to add to the team dynamic? What does this person bring to the table that we don't have on the team, that we need on the team? And maybe that isn't always about the technology experience they have. Maybe that's a personality trait that they could bring. Maybe they need more charisma on that team. Maybe they need a spokesperson on the team.
Even at the expense
Maybe they need a calming influence if they meet the minimum requirements.
Okay, not instead of.
No.
So what do you think? What do you think about culture fit? That phrase. I always feel like that's
it's a bit amorphous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like
really hard to wrestle down. Like, what
like
does
we
that
think you're
actually
awesome, but we don't
mean?
think you're a culture fit. Like what? I don't understand that.
Yeah, I think a lot of companies think when they're at a small stage, they're scared to kind of hire outside things that have worked in the past. And they kind of hang on to a certain demographic, maybe. Like with Facebook, for a long time, they wouldn't widen the funnel. And so I think companies can easily get caught in that trap. But, to talk about if someone's a culture fit or not, you have to define what that is. Like, what are the company values? What's the vision? You've got to spell it out. It's got to be, the people who work there have to know. You have to be able to ask anyone in the company and get a pretty similar answer.
And how often do you work with a company since you're in the sub-1,000 employee space, right?
Yeah, most of our customers are under 1,000 employees.
And how
or
often?
Even under 500, because otherwise, often
They have their own people.
Large internal recruiting
teams.
teams.
How often do you work with someone where when you ask them what are your values, they're like, we don't really have that.
They don't say that ever because they'd probably be fired. But you can tell that they're grasping at straws.
Yes.
And
Excellence.
they don't really know. And
Innovation.
They're quickly looking at the website. Sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
But that's also me kind of interviewing them. Like I said, I'm a contingent recruiter. So I could, you could be my client. You could tell me I want these things. I could go out and find people who have all the things you specified. And then when they meet you, they could think it was a terrible place to work, or, that the company didn't have its act together. And so they turned down the offer. So I'd still gone through the process and done all the work, and I wouldn't get paid.
So and contingency means you only get paid after 3 months, or what has that work?
No, it just means that it's
You only get
contingent
paid
on you hiring
on
that
hiring,
person.
okay.
So I could do all this work. If you don't hire the person, I'm getting zero. Zilch. Nada.
Is that the worst?
Niet.
Is that the worst? Do you work with Russian candidates?
Yes.
South
Fluent. Very fluent.
Is that the worst possible outcome for you? Is that when a candidate decides not to take an offer?
I mean, it's a pretty bad day, but it happens, And with really great candidates, they often have 2 or 3 offers. And so you just have to kind of be prepared for that and talk to them about what else they have going on in their pipeline. And sometimes I actually agree with their decision. Like sometimes I literally will think, okay, actually, for the reasons you specified, that's a better job for you. Do it. Go for it.
If this was an interview, I would at this point ask you, so what areas do you think you can work on yourself? Like, where are your weaknesses? Because right now you sound too perfect.
Oh, no, definitely not perfect. You really put me on the spot with that one, didn't you?
So,
I think having the hard conversations.
you didn't need
sometimes,
to. You didn't need to answer the question. It was rhetorical. But yes, go ahead.
Having the hard conversations sometimes. Sometimes I'm
Too nice.
reluctant and too nice to have the hard conversations. Not with
Ah.
candidates, because I think it's important to share the feedback, like I said, but with clients. Sometimes
The hard conversation with the clients.
sometimes
Like-
I avoid those or body swerve those.
When you feel like they're screwing up.
Yeah. Instead
Huh.
of being, really honest with them sometimes.
You don't strike me as someone who have a problem with that.
Well, sometimes you've got to pick your battles, haven't you?
Mm.
And maybe they're doing 4 things which are really self-sabotaging. And I try to have the conversation, but sometimes people aren't receptive. So I think I need to work on that better, is having those tough conversations.
So in Silicon Valley, did you see a lot of, you obviously saw some excess, a lot of people becoming very, very rich.
Did, yes. And then very poor.
What's happening with all that money?
Yeah, it's kind of disturbing actually, because I feel like there's this divide of, the tech billionaires, of some who are on the side of good and some are on the side of evil. I think I mentioned that in some of the, notes I made earlier. I think there are certain people out there who have made, incredibly, built incredibly successful companies, like Mark Benioff from Salesforce, the CEO and founder. And they're using that personal wealth for the greater good. So he's really taken up the cause of, the homeless problem in San Francisco. He's actually supported this Proposition C. I don't know if you heard about that.
I followed
Which is
that.
basically putting a tax on corporations after they earn 50 million. And saying we need to pay more. We need to pay it forward. We need to deal with this problem. And then other, people have come out in opposition to that. But the proposition passed, which is fantastic. But, he's using his personal wealth for social change and philanthropy, which I think is fantastic. He just bought a hotel I read about, which he's converting into transition housing for the homeless. And they'll pay something like $500 a month. And it's, in the center of San Francisco. It could be multi-million-dollar apartments. And he bought this hotel. He's refurbing it. It's going to cost him $10 million or something. And that's going to be transitional for homeless, which is really cool. He's also addressing I'm a bit of a fan of his, actually. He's also addressing, the gender pay gap and inequality of women still earning 80% less than their male counterparts. 20% less. So they
80%
yes,
off.
Exactly, 80% off. And so, like I said, he's a philanthropist. He's all about social change. He thought in his own organization, Salesforce, we can't possibly have a problem with this because we're always hiring women and promoting women. And, we must pay great money to our female employees. And his VP of HR was like, well, you know what? There's only one way to know, and that's the hard data. Let's do an audit. And he was like, oh, okay, because I know you're going to be wrong. And incredibly, she was right. And her suspicion that there was inequality, even in Salesforce, where, they're fighting the good fight, so to speak. It was overwhelming in every aspect of the business. Women were being paid less. So they had to do a pay adjustment. And they actually paid out $3 million in pay adjustments that first year, which is crazy, but awesome.
Yeah. How many female candidates do you
I don't keep
what disparity
hard
do
data
you
on
see?
it, but I usually do tell female candidates when they tell me what their target salary range is. Usually I'm telling them you need to ask for more money. It's usually less than their male counterparts.
Should an employer can't ask a candidate what their salary requirements are, can they?
Yeah, of course. You can ask them what your salary
And what is
requirement is. You
what is
can't
the right
use their
answer?
historical data. You can't use their salary history to determine what you should pay them.
Okay, so but what would you encourage candidates to say when a CTO or a hiring manager asks that question?
Yes, I would encourage them to tell the CTO what they want to make,
Double it.
especially women. Women should add more because, or they need to do their research. I think they're just hardwired to think, oh, I'm not worth that much, or I'm asking for too much, or that seems greedy. Whereas their male counterparts will basically have more of a sense of what that position pays, and they will ask for at least that or more. So it's a big problem.
How are you helping solve the problem?
I tell all the female engineers to ask
ask
for
for
more
more.
money.
Because when they
Yes.
do, then you get a higher percentage, right?
That's exactly why I do it, Etienne. It's all about me.
That's a good weakness.
You got me.
That's a good
You
weakness.
got me.
That's something you can work on. It's better than
Yeah.
the earlier answer where it's
Yes,
like,
I'm always
I'm too nice.
inflating candidate salaries for my own gain.
Do you have any questions for me?
What made you want to start doing these podcasts, and what do you get out of it?
Well, I have a lot of fun.
I can see that.
You know, I before I did this with Eric as a professional with this rig, right? I had a little Zoom.
Which is very impressive.
I had a little Zoom thing with little lapel mics, and my idea was, so because I'm building 7 CTOs, I've had to learn how to embrace the role of sales. And I'm in many conversations with people. And 51% of those conversations are really interesting. And I just felt like I wish I could just say to that person, just give me 1 second. I just want to, do you mind if we record this and then just pluck a thing down there and wire us up and carry on the conversation?
Okay.
So I've just felt like I've wanted to capture those conversations. That obviously doesn't work because, you're having a great time and then you're like, well, that just went weird, which I saw multiple times. So then I met Eric a few years ago, and Eric from day one was like, you should just do podcasts. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do fancy videos and then one day when he said it to me for the umpteenth time, I was like, okay, well, let's just batch up some interviews and do it. And so
How many
I love
listeners
it.
do you have?
I think I have maybe pushing about 500-600 a month.
Nice. Can you monitor that?
Monitor. You
Do
can
you
just basically
see how many downloads you have? Or?
You can see the downloads, but there's so many different channels. Like on YouTube, we're actually growing we just broke through 200 subscribers on YouTube.
Wow.
200
200?
I mean, that's...
I'm just thinking about my teenager right now. She'd just be like shaking her head.
She's like,
She'd be looking
you're
at us
excited
with
about what?
Yeah. With a sense
No,
of
so
pity.
the first thing I did was I made sure to see what was out there for CTO types, and there aren't that many. There are some really great conversations being had on podcasts, but ultimately I want to have the conversations I want to have, because as I'm building 7 CTOs, I'm talking to CTOs all day, and so the questions I'm asking you it's not stuff I made up. It's like these are conversations that are happening in our forums.
Sure.
And so, I could try and have show in and show out be with another CTO, but it's mostly, like I say, I like to have conversation. I like to have the conversations that I want to have, representing I'm the voice of my customer.
I like it.
Thank you. What are your Christmas plans?
I am going back to the UK. Yeah, next Thursday. I am flying with my teenager and my little brother, my second child, really. And we're going to my other brother in Manchester. And this year, the family have decided we're doing Secret Santa. So we just have to buy a special gift for one person in the extended family, which is good.
Oh,
Because I didn't want to schlep all of the presents across the Atlantic again.
By the time this thing airs, though, Christmas would be done. So you should have said all of that in the past tense.
Oops, Christmas was amazing.
Did you guys do Secret Santa?
Yeah, it was incredible.
How did that work?
I loved my gift. It was so cool. Actually, my brother sent out an email this week about planning all the activities and mostly about the food.
Your little brother.
Who's making what? No, my older brother.
Okay.
He's a restaurateur, and he sent out a planning email about family-related activities, and it made me very suspicious because he's in his 40s. He's never sent a planning email in his life.
Oh.
So I'm not sure where this is coming from.
Wow.
Oh.
What could it possibly be?
I think it's maybe the new girlfriend who's trying. She was on the email chain. Maybe he's trying to impress her.
I was
his
worried
planning
that there
abilities.
Okay, I was worried that there was an illness or something.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh, gosh, no. I
No,
hope
no.
not. I think he just wants to make sure he buys
Well,
the right things.
Kimberly, there aren't many recruiters I refer to. I think there are maybe ones.
Oh, awesome.
I mean, by the time this is, maybe 3 or 4, but I'm just saying for now. It's
For
one.
now, just one.
Thanks for being just an awesome part of our community.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate
I'll
it.
see you after Christmas.
I will.
Yes. Have you chatted with a CTO lately? Hi, thank you for listening to the CTO Studio. If you don't mind, take a quick second and please rate and review the show. It helps us a lot. Go to the CTOstudio.com for more information on what we're doing at 7 CTOs. We also have a video or two for you that could be a helpful resource for you as you're managing your company. So thank you for listening.